When I walked into my house that day, I had a revelation. The pile of clothes in the corner of the room, the drawers that barely closed, the overflowing cabinets that I avoided opening. All of it wasn't just clutter. It was an invisible weight I carried every day. And in that moment I realized that my home had become a prison of things, not a refuge of peace. It's strange how we accumulate so much without noticing, as if each object were an anchor, binding us to a past that no longer exists or to a future that may never come. That shirt saved for when I lose weight, the gifts we keep out of obligation, the boxes of items that might be useful someday. I'm sure you feel this too. That suffocating sensation among your own belongings. Spending time searching for things that should be within reach. Wasting energy cleaning objects that don't even bring joy. And the worst part, the guilt of not being able to keep everything in order, as if the mess were a reflection of your inability to control your life. That's when I discovered that in Japan, the relationship with objects is completely different. It's not about having more drawers, more organizers, or more space. It's about having less, much less, and valuing each item that remains in your life with intention and purpose. Today, I'm going to share with you the 7 principles of Japanese minimalism that transformed not only my home but also my mind. That freed me from the endless cycle of consuming, accumulating, stressing, and repeating. That taught me that an organized home isn't about perfection, but about creating space for what truly matters. The first principle might be the hardest: detachment. At first, I rationalized every item. This was too expensive to donate. That was a gift from my grandmother. This might be useful someday. But the truth is, I was trapped by fear. Fear of wasting money, fear of offending someone, fear of needing something I didn't keep. I started slowly with a drawer. I took everything out, absolutely everything, and I asked a simple question for each item. Does this serve me now? Not in the past, not in the future, but now. It was eye-opening to realize how many things I was holding on to for reasons that had nothing to do with my current life. The clothes I hadn't worn in over a year were the first to go. Then, there were the duplicate items. Why have 3 spatulas when I only use one? Expired makeup products, cords for devices that don't even exist anymore, books I'm never going to reread. Each item that left felt like a weight being lifted off my shoulders. The second principle is awareness of space. In Japanese tradition, empty space is not something to be filled, but valued in and of itself. I started to notice that every corner of my house conveyed a message. The narrow passages between furniture said, "There's no room for you to breathe here." Surfaces covered in stuff screamed, "There's no room to create here." I removed unnecessary furniture, the side table that only served as a catch-all for papers, the media console that took up half the living room but mostly collected dust. It was incredible to feel how the air seemed to circulate better, how natural light reached corners that were once dark, how I could finally move around without bumping into something. The third principle is intentional organization. It's not enough to eliminate excess. You need to create systems that make sense for your routine. I observed my daily habits. Which items did I use most often? Where did I usually leave my keys when I got home? What paths did I naturally take through the house? I reorganized everything according to how frequently I used it and logical proximity. In the kitchen, items I use daily are within reach, while occasional items went to higher shelves. In the bathroom, I simplified my routine by keeping only the products that actually work for me, not those that promised miracles, but ended up neglected. The fourth principle is visual simplicity. Traditional Japanese homes have few decorative elements, and each one carries meaning. I removed the excess of pictures, ornaments, and cushions. I carefully chose what would remain visible, ensuring that each item brought real beauty or significance. The colors also changed. Neutral and natural tones replaced the overload of patterns and contrasts. It was surprising how this affected my mood. Entering a visually calm environment became an immediate relief from the stress of the day. The fifth principle is the maintenance routine. I created small daily organizing rituals that prevent clutter. 5 minutes before bed to put things back in their places. 10 minutes upon waking to air out the house and make the bed. A weekly review of correspondence and paperwork to avoid piles. I realized that clutter doesn't happen suddenly. It's the accumulation of small postponed decisions. I'll leave this here for now. I'll take care of it later. I don't have time right now. And before you know it, your home is once again crying out for help. The sixth principle is mindful consumption. Before each purchase, I started asking, is this going to add real value to my life? Do I have the physical and mental space for it? It was liberating to realize that I could say no to the impulse to buy, no to the illusion that more things would bring more happiness. When I understood that each item that comes into my home requires maintenance, cleaning, space, and eventually disposal, impulsive purchases lost their appeal. I began to prefer quality over quantity. A well-made item that lasts for years instead of several cheap items that will soon need to be replaced. The seventh principle, and perhaps the deepest, is gratitude for what remains. By drastically reducing my belongings, I've come to value every item I've chosen to keep. I appreciate the functionality of my sharp kitchen knife, the beauty of my handmade ceramic mug, the comfort of the few clothes that truly fit me well. This gratitude has extended beyond objects. I've started noticing the natural light that comes in through the living room window, the silence on Sunday mornings, the aroma of fresh coffee. Things that have always been there, but I was too busy to notice, distracted by excess. But I know you might be thinking, this seems impossible in my reality. Maybe you have young children with their inevitable toys scattered around. Perhaps you share a home with people who don't share this vision, or maybe you have a limited budget that doesn't allow for replacing furniture or organizing systems. The beauty of Japanese minimalism is that it can be adapted. It's not about following strict rules or creating spaces that look like they came out of magazines. It's about finding the right balance for you. With kids, for example, we can teach the value of having fewer but more meaningful toys. We can create rotation systems where only a few toys are accessible at a time, making playtime more focused and cleanup simpler. In shared spaces, we can start with our own territory, our bedroom, our portion of the closet, our workspace. It's amazing how these localized changes can end up inspiring others around you. And with a limited budget, remember, minimalism isn't about buying expensive organizers or designer furniture. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's about removing, not adding. It's about finding creative solutions with what you already have. Another important aspect is understanding that this is a continuous process, not a weekend project. It took me months to transform my home. I started with a drawer, then a closet, and then a room. Each small victory gave me energy for the next challenge, and there were setbacks. Days when the clutter returned, when exhaustion won over discipline, moments when I gave in to the urge to buy something unnecessary. But the difference is that now I was aware of those choices and their consequences. I could recalibrate and get back on track. One practice that helped me a lot was the one-in, one-out rule. For every new item I brought home, another had to go. This forced me to seriously consider each acquisition. Does this new sweater deserve to take the place of the old one? Is this book worth more than the one I'll have to donate? I also learned to appreciate transitional spaces. The entryway, for example, now has a small bench for taking off shoes, hooks for coats and bags, and a tray for keys and wallets. This prevents external clutter from invading the home and creates a calming arrival ritual. In the kitchen, I removed everything from the countertops except for the essentials. It's amazing how having clear surfaces invites culinary creativity, makes cleaning quicker, and conveys an immediate sense of order. The appliances I rarely use have been put away in cabinets, freeing up vital space. In the bathroom, I drastically reduced products: a good soap, a shampoo that works for my hair type, and a multi-purpose moisturizer. No more accumulated bottles, no more sample sizes saved, no more promises in the form of cream. Besides saving money, my routine became simpler and less stressful. In the bedroom, the transformation was profound. I removed the television, leaving the space dedicated to rest and connection. The bedding in natural tones conveys a sense of calm. The bedside table holds just a lamp, a current book, and a small vase with fresh flowers. No cell phones, work papers, or to-do lists, but perhaps the most significant change was in the closet. I reduced my clothes by 70%, keeping only the pieces that I truly love, that match with each other, and are suitable for my current life. No more emergency clothes for a body I don't have, events I won't attend, or an idealized version of myself. The vertical folding of clothes, inspired by the Japanese method, transformed my drawers. By folding the pieces so they stand up, I can see everything at once without disturbing stacks to find something at the bottom. This visibility also prevents duplicate purchases due to forgetfulness. For seasonal items, I created a simple storage system. One box for specific holiday decorations, another for winter clothes during the summer. But most importantly, I revisit these boxes regularly to ensure they don't become storage for indecision. A particular challenge was dealing with sentimental items. Letters, photographs, travel souvenirs, gifts with emotional value. I realized I was holding onto boxes of memories that I rarely opened, just out of guilt about considering discarding them. The solution was to create a curated personal museum. A small, beautiful box for each significant phase of life, containing only the truly meaningful items. Photographs were digitized, old letters were read one last time, and their sentiments absorbed before they moved on. For large items with sentimental value but no practical use, like my grandmother's rocking chair that took up space in the corner of the living room, I found new homes where they would truly be used and appreciated. It's surprising how donating something beloved to someone who will truly use it brings more satisfaction than keeping it as a dusty monument to the past. I've discovered that memories don't reside in the objects themselves, but within us. I don't need the broken mug from college to remember those formative years. I don't need to keep the dress from my first date to keep that night's memory alive. Another important aspect was rethinking gifts. I communicated openly with friends and family about my new approach to material possessions, suggesting experience-based gifts instead of objects. A dinner together, tickets to a show, a digital subscription to something I enjoy. And for the inevitable material gifts that don't fit into my life, I've learned to genuinely appreciate the thought without feeling obligated to keep the item for years. After I've enjoyed it, it can move on to someone who truly needs or desires it. Transforming my paperwork was another milestone. Bills, documents, correspondence, recipes, manuals. How much do we accumulate in the name of organization? I digitized the essentials, established a simple filing system for what I needed to keep physically, and created a habit of processing papers immediately, instead of letting them pile up for later. In small spaces like the entryway and hallways, I applied the principle of the conscious interval, the negative space that allows for breathing room. No more walls cluttered with frames, unnecessary side tables, or decorative items without purpose. Emptiness is also a design. In the living room, I rearranged the furniture to promote connection rather than distraction. The sofa and chairs face each other, not all directed toward the television. I selected books that I truly read and reread, instead of full shelves meant to impress visitors. Live plants bring nature inside and purify the air, instead of artificial arrangements that gather dust. My workspace also underwent a reinvention. I removed all distractions, keeping only the essentials for daily tasks. I discovered that a minimalist workspace not only looks more organized, but also effectively improves my focus and productivity. Meals gained a new dimension through simplification. Dishes in neutral colors that enhance the food. Fewer choices of utensils and glasses, but all of good quality. No more accumulating plastic containers of various sizes with lids that always seem to vanish. A cohesive set that makes storage easier and beautifies the table. Perhaps the most surprising impact has been on my eating habits. With an organized kitchen, preparing meals has become less stressful. I could see all the available ingredients, had space to work, and easily found the necessary utensils. Naturally, I started cooking more at home, in a more creative and healthy way. Japanese minimalism also transformed my relationship with technology. I removed unnecessary apps from my phone, disabled non-essential notifications, and organized digital files with the same discipline applied to physical ones. It felt as if my mental space had also been cleared along with the physical. One practice I've incorporated is tidying up before bedtime. Not literally sweeping, although I do that sometimes too, but dedicating a few minutes before going to sleep to put things in their places, clean surfaces, and prepare the environment for the next day. Waking up in an organized space completely changes the tone of the day. In the changing seasons, I've adopted the habit of seasonal reviews. Just as nature rejuvenates, my home undergoes small transformations too. In winter, I add more blankets and textures. In summer, I opt for more open and airy spaces. It's a way to keep the home alive and responsive, without accumulating decorations for every occasion. One aspect that many overlook in minimalism is our sense of smell. Eliminating artificial odors and choosing natural, subtle scents, like quality incense, fresh flowers, citrus peels, and herbs from my kitchen makes a surprising difference in how we perceive our environment and our well-being. Another dimension that changed was sound. Reducing visual noise made me more aware of auditory noise as well. I've eliminated the habit of always having the television on or music playing in the background. I've started to cherish moments of silence where I can hear the natural sounds of the house and the surrounding environment. Japanese minimalism has taught me that organization isn't about having lots of boxes, dividers, and labels. It's about having less to organize. It's about questioning every object. Does it bring functionality or real beauty to my life? If not, why is it here? As I progressed on this journey, I realized that the impact went far beyond aesthetics or practicality. It was changing my relationship with consumption, with time, and with the very concept of home. It was no longer a space to impress others or accumulate symbols of status, but a personal sanctuary that reflected my deepest values. With fewer objects demanding my attention, I found more time for experiences. To read that book that had been on my list for years, to practice a new hobby, to simply sit and watch the sunset through the window, something that once seemed a waste of time in my packed schedule. Stress has visibly decreased. Without the constant visual overload and subliminal pressure from unfinished tasks, drawers to organize, closets to clean, items without a designated place, my mind has found more space for creativity and solving real problems. My finances have also improved, not only because of the obvious reduction in impulsive purchases, but due to a fundamental shift in my relationship with money and value. I've started to invest in quality, not quantity, in experiences, not possessions, in freedom, not accumulation. Even my relationships have benefited. With a more welcoming and less chaotic home, I've started hosting people more often and with less stress. Conversations flow better in a calm environment, and without the constant distraction of things to organize, I could be truly present with those who matter. Sleeping has become deeper in a bedroom free of visual stimuli and objects associated with work or stress. Waking up has become lighter, without the immediate sight of accumulated clutter or items reminding me of pending tasks. House cleaning, once an endless and frustrating chore, has become simpler and even enjoyable. With fewer items to remove, clean around, and put back, the time required has drastically reduced, and the satisfaction of maintaining a harmonious space makes the effort worthwhile. An unexpected revelation has been how minimalism has sharpened my aesthetic appreciation. By removing the excess, I've started to notice subtle details: the texture of a natural fabric, the elegant shape of a well-designed utensil, the interplay of light and shadow on an empty wall, simple beauties that were once swallowed by visual noise. People have started to comment, not only on the transformation of my home, but also on a change in me. "You seem calmer," they say, "more centered." It's as if the external and internal space are intrinsically connected, each reflecting and influencing the other. Minimalism has also revealed aspects of my personality that were buried under layers of external influences and societal expectations. By removing the unnecessary, a more authentic version of myself emerged, less concerned with appearances and more aligned with my core values. I realized that many of my consumption habits were automatic reflections of insecurities or attempts to fill emotional voids. The clothes bought after a tough day, the decorative item acquired to emulate a lifestyle seen on social media. Accumulation as a response to unconscious fears of scarcity or loss. By confronting these hidden motivations, I was able to make more conscious choices. It doesn't mean that I've never shopped impulsively again, or that I've reached some ideal state of detachment. It means that now I have greater awareness of what drives me and a better ability to question before I act. One of the most liberating aspects has been letting go of comparison. It doesn't matter if my home is as minimalist as someone's on Instagram or as perfect as a magazine layout. What matters is whether it works for me, reflects who I am, and supports the kind of life I want to live. This led me to personalize the principles of Japanese minimalism for my unique reality. It's not about following dogmas or rigid rules, but about extracting essential wisdom and applying it authentically. My minimalism has color, has curves, has imperfections, just like me. The process continues to this day. It's not a goal to be reached, but an ongoing practice. With each change of season, with each new phase of life, I revisit these principles and adjust them. Sometimes this means allowing something new to come in. Other times, It means recognizing that something that once held value has already fulfilled its purpose. If you're inspired to start your own journey into Japanese minimalism, remember, start small. A drawer, a shelf, a surface. Celebrate every small victory. Be patient with yourself. There will be resistance, there will be attachment, there will be doubt. All of this is part of the process. Question everything, but with kindness. Why do I have this? How does this serve my current life? What would happen if I no longer had this? These simple questions can reveal deep insights about your true values and needs. Also remember that minimalism is not asceticism. It's not about living with the bare minimum or denying material pleasures. It's about being intentional, about consciously choosing what deserves space in your home and, by extension, in your life. And perhaps most importantly, this is not just an organization project, but a reconnection with what truly matters. As physical space opens up, something also opens within us. A clarity, a calmness, a renewed ability to appreciate beauty in simple things. My home today has less than half the items it had before, but it is infinitely richer in meaning, functionality, and beauty. Each item that remains has passed through the filter of awareness and intention. Each empty space is an opportunity to breathe, to create, to simply be. And are you ready to discover the transformative power of empty space? To experience the lightness that comes when we free ourselves from the weight of excess? To create a home that not only shelters your body, but nourishes your soul? The journey begins with a single object, a single conscious decision, and it continues step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice. Until one day you realize your home has finally become a true reflection of who you really are and what you truly value. At this moment, you realize that Japanese minimalism was never about the objects you removed. It was about the space you created. Space to grow, to dream, to live fully in the present. Because in the end, our truest home is not made of walls and possessions, but of the peace we find within ourselves. Share this blessed video so it can touch and help others like you and me. Don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of our faith community. If you wish to support our channel a bit more, consider becoming a member. Here are 2 more videos for you to continue your journey. Thank you, and may God bless everyone. See you soon.